All right, everyone, we start off today talking about the end of Title 42. Yes, the Trump-era policy with regards to asylum seekers has now ended. And so there are now 60,000 migrants amassed on the southern border. I believe that's just one particular large blob of them. There are others, milling around, and certainly there are people packing their bags down in Guatemala and Honduras and parts of Mexico, waiting to come aboard, the border and take advantage of the largesse of the Biden administration and looking the other way as they pour over. At this point, I think it's weird, actually, the strategy that they're employing. Now, I know that Biden wants more illegals in the United States. It's clear. They want them for slave labor. The Uniparty loves it. The GOP Unipartyists love that idea, too. They pretend to bitch and complain about it, but at the end of the day, do they really offer any solutions, or do they block wall funding for several years? We can read their actions and tell where their priorities really are. They do the same thing on guns. Mitt Romney and John Cornyn. Anyway, on the border, 60,000 people have amassed. It's more than can be reasonably processed at these centers that are there for asylum-seeking applications. Biden, I love the fudginess, the funny language that he's using, the excuses he's making. Because he's trying to assure the far left, hey, I'm ending Orange Man's policy, and so everyone's going to come across and get processed, etc. But then in the same breath, he'll say, well, don't worry, we're introducing new measures to try to eventually reduce the number of people that are coming, and they have to be able to prove, and I'm sure that this will work, just like every other policy immigration-wise that the United States government has imposed for decades, other than for a few years under Trump, by the way. I'm sure that it'll work well. We're going to impose measures to make sure that people have to prove that if they were capable of applying for asylum in a safe third country, like in Mexico or something, that they actually did so. And if they don't have that paperwork, we're not letting them in, God damn it. You know what will happen when someone who's already traveled 1,500, 2,000 miles and is in desperate need of some assistance, when you tell them to get lost, you know what they're going to do? They're going to get smuggled into the country or cross the porous border illegally, and the next time they won't bother to do the processing thing. By the way, when you have that many people amassed at the border, is there not the risk that if too many of them get pissed off, you end up with riots? I would think so. That's a lot of people. El Paso can really absorb them. It's funny because when Kamala went there, she didn't even go to the border. She stood on the tarmac, gave a quick speech, then she talked to a couple of ICE agents that were carefully picked and took a couple selfies and then left. The whole thing was less than an hour, I think, if I remember correctly. Second visit, they cleaned out the area before Kamala arrived. Biden's done this before as well. If Biden gets anywhere near the border, the first thing they do is send in the Gestapo to clear out all the migrant tent cities and shit under the underpasses and shoo them on to the next town before Biden arrives. So people subconsciously, I guess, associate Biden's arrival with things being marginally and temporarily better. I mean, this is nuts. Effectively, what Biden's doing, by the way, is using... I hope the progressives understand that he's really abusing these people, too. I actually feel sorry for people who made the trek. You're telling these people, hey, we've developed a process by which some of you qualify to come into the country under asylum-seeking laws. But we're going to deport you anyway because 99% of you don't have paperwork. But we didn't tell you until you were already at the border. So then when you cross illegally and you get trafficked in and raped by a coyote or something like that, not the animal, the desperado, or when the cartels say, hey, we'll get you across, but we're going to need you to swallow these 12 condoms filled with cocaine or fentanyl or something. Probably the fentanyl's not worth enough. It's dirt cheap. So the cocaine or whatever. And then we'll get you across. And then when they shit out the cocaine, they probably blow their heads off half the time after anyway to cover up the evidence. But that's the way cartels work. Biden is good friends with the cartels down there. He's doing everything that they want him to do. Open up the border, release, a bunch of people, some of which are going to be forced to traffic drugs or be human trafficked into the country. And then the cartel pipeline on the other end says, okay, yeah, you spend 2 years whoring in this basement, and then we'll let you go. Welcome to the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's their welcome to the United States. What patriotic citizens I'm sure someone under such conditions will be, by the way. Only through sheer rugged individualistic fortitude that most of these people know nothing about, because they were raised under socialism. That's why the economic problems forced them to flee. Again, I feel more sorry for them than anything else. And they end up, they're shat out onto the streets after, taking 1,000 dicks or something like that, or having to be forced to sell drugs for a while. That's assuming they don't get executed or that the cartel doesn't hold them in perpetual slavery. And that's their life in the United States. They're working in a sweatshop for $4 an hour. And hell, it's still better than being in rural sub-third world Yucatan, I suppose. But, I would think that in a country like the United States, can't we formulate a slightly better way to handle this situation? Like not teasing and taunting people and alluring them to come to the border and then turning them back around and screwing them. How, by the way, can I please ask a rhetorical question, specifically of leftists, the two of you that camp out on the channel just to dislike everything? How is this a friendly policy? How is this an ethical policy? It would be more ethical to build an impenetrable fucking barrier on the southern border, lock it all off, put machine gun turrets on it and say, don't bother coming. Then it'd be, you know what the best policy we can have for the southern border would be? Stop exporting socialism to the third world. Go in and curb stomp some commies, give them a helicopter ride, and then introduce capitalism there so maybe an economy grows. Then they wouldn't have to fucking flee because there'd actually be jobs. There'd actually be some degree of wealth. Look at Chile if you don't fucking believe me. They managed to make it work. Meanwhile, half their neighbors, somehow things went in the other direction. I don't understand why Venezuela, with the most proven oil in the world, is so poor. Could it be socialism? Could it be their government structure? Could it have been that mass speculation in order to artificially drive up the quality of life that Chavez invested in and then left Maduro hanging? And actually, it's not entirely Maduro's fault. He just gets the blame for it because he's the dude who happens to be in office at the time that the implosion occurred. Title 42 should have been maintained, but even that's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. We should continue with wall construction, expedite it. It should be 10 times more of a budget than we had before. Donald Trump helped the situation, but the situation requires more than just help. It requires a complete and permanent fix. The reason you're not getting that is because uniparty Dems and uniparty GOPers are friends and in bed with big corporations that employ illegal labor. They want these people in the United States. It drives down wages, which helps corporations. It lowers the expectations of the U.S. middle and working class. It declines the price of goods so you can throw those breadcrumbs to the poor and keep them on life support. And then the migrants come in and occasionally one of them ends up gaining enough money to go back home and open a food stand. So they think they're helping the world too. 1 in 100 of our illegal immigrants that we have in the basement of our 3 factories, did you know that more than 1 in 100 of them goes back to their home country and rises up to the middle class, before the socialist guerrillas confiscate everything? Yeah, we've done such a good thing for the world. We're such nice and good people. Again, it would be better to just simply build a goddamn fortified border with machine gun nests on it, with fucking auto turrets and snipers and shit. Ironically, that would be more friendly than taking 60,000 people, some of these are kids, women and shit like that, and saying, hey, here's your choice. Go the fuck away, for most of you, because those other countries aren't going to, you think you're going to get the processing papers in Honduras? They're not going to let you in. They're also not going to give you any proofs to show the border guard in the United States. What the fuck are you talking about? They don't give a shit about these people either. Or, if you don't want to leave, you can come in illegally, get trafficked in, get raped, get disappeared into a smuggling network, or run drugs and potentially end up in a federal prison on day one. Yeah, justice, bring us your tired and poor. Oh, how tired and weary they will be after going around Biden's inane and cockamamie border policies. Piece of shit. That's about all. Peace out.